Seeing shape, ironically, can be an incredibly helpful way of drawing form more accurately. But firstly, what's the difference between shape and form? I think of shape as being like this: two-dimensional, flat, an outline, whereas I think of form as being like this. And if we imagine that what we're looking at here is identical cylinders side on, we can see that one creates a sense of three dimensions of roundness because we have some additional elements to it, because we've added some lines to create light, and we've also used lighter lines for these long edges to reflect the fact that the direction is changing. This form, this surface is directionally changing. It's rolling away from us. And therefore, this edge does not have the same feel or look or reality as an edge of, say, a cut-out piece of tin that has the same hard edge all the way around. So clearly, most of the time, for most of us in our drawings, if we're trying to draw with a sense of realism, we want to have a sense of three dimensions of form rather than have a flat, cartoon-like outlining look. But sometimes, even though we're trying to draw three dimensions, looking at our subject in two dimensions as an outlined shape can be the most helpful way of actually being then able to create a realistic sense of form. Let's say we want to draw a car in this view. A car, particularly from this angle, is a highly molded three-dimensional form. And part of the problem is that in our minds, we still think of the car more strongly as looking like this. This is what, in lots of ways, we see or we want to see when we look at this. And when we go to draw, this is important. Now, when we think of space between the wheel and the car, we will most commonly think of this round, circular, dark patch of shadows, but this memory is unhelpful when we come to draw a car such as this. And when we're drawing this section here, it's easy for us to end up drawing something that's looking more like this than this. And that's because this is heavily influenced by what we know from a more familiar view. What we need to do to help us capture the three dimensions of this view more accurately is to see this shape. Not to see it as a three-dimensional space that has form, but to see it as a shape that I need to capture. And that lets me draw a far more accurate rendition of this. And the same principle works when we're looking at something such as these windows. Our problem is if we don't observe our reference carefully enough, at a superficial glance, we see something of this, but we're also heavily influenced by this, which means when we go to draw this, if we don't really understand from careful observation how compressed our view is, it's going to be very tempting, very easy to elongate it. I find it helpful to see shape. And you see the fact that I saw this as being horizontal basically made it harder for me to actually see the angle, the upward angle that we have here. When I look at the shape though, when I focus on just the shape, I see in fact that it's tilting up. I have to resist knowing that from another angle, it looks more like this. And even now, it really should be thinner. This is probably a more accurate take on this shape. This is in fact a tighter view than the first one I drew. Normally, I think it's helpful to focus on the three dimensions on the overall form, on the curves and the changing directions and the light and the edges, and whether they're hard or soft edges. Sometimes it's most helpful to not think of any of that, but to literally see the two-dimensional outlined shape that we have and seek to draw that. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. If we focus on shape and outline too much when we draw, we can end up with very cartoon-like looking drawings. However, sometimes it's an indispensable way of thinking and observing and of drawing to capture accuracy in otherwise very tricky objects. I hope this has been helpful, but however you draw and however you observe it and conceptualize it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.